Scan the barcode and do the pre-presentation survey. We'll ask at the end of the presentation that you go ahead and complete the survey if you would. So I'm going to say something very cliche. Most of you are going to roll your eyes, but I truly believe that the next 45 minutes could be the most important 45 minutes of your life. We're going to discuss fentanyl poisoning today. We're going to share some personal stories, but in the end, the decision is going to be up to you. You know, what you do when you're faced with that opportunity, and our goal is to make sure that you make the right decision. So let's start with a question. How many people do you think die in a single day from fentanyl poisoning? In one day? 7,000. 35,000. All right. Let's see. That's a lot of people, and that's every single day, 365 days a year. So, my name is Michael Gillett, and on January 27th, 2022, my wife and I found my oldest son, Brian, dead on his bedroom floor. Brian died of fentanyl poisoning. This is not unique to my family. It's not unique to Jack's family. We lose over 100,000 people a year to fentanyl poisoning. It's the number one killer of young people in the country. And when I look at this group of adults, you are the fastest growing area for fentanyl deaths to date. So this message is very important to you. Since I lost my son, I have spent a lot of time with parents who've lost their children to fentanyl poisoning. And the one thing that we all agree on is awareness is our number one weapon. I know a whole lot about fentanyl today. I know how it kills you. I know how they package it. I know how they fool you. I know all the numbers. But I didn't know any of this when my son was alive. If I'd known this, I could have had a discussion with him. I could have had the opportunity to bring awareness to him. I didn't get that opportunity, and as a result, he's dead, and I'm standing here. So, my message to you is to take in what we give you today. Carry it with you. Carry it with you for the rest of your life, and make sure that you heed the warnings that we're going to give you today. So who are we? We're Fentanyl Fathers. We are a group of fathers, for the most part, who have lost a child, and in one case, 2 children, to fentanyl poisoning. So we all live the life that one lives after losing a child. Why are we here? I don't know any of you out here, but I'm guessing you all have high hopes for this year at school. It's going to be your senior year. You got graduation coming up. You got concerts you're going to go see this year. Your whole life is ahead of you. But it just takes one mistake to take all of that away. That's what happened to my son. So we don't want that to happen to you. I don't want your parents to go through what I'm going through. So that is our message to you, and that's our purpose. Thank you.
We're going to show you a movie, Dead on Arrival now, if we could dim the lights a little bit.
My name is Dominic Tierno. Since I graduated high school in 2014, I've had the great honor of directing a number of documentary films about drugs and drug addiction. Our mission is to revolutionize drug education by telling real-life stories that motivate young people to make one of the most important decisions. My name is Dominic Tierno. Since I graduated high school in 2014, I've had the great honor of directing a number of documentary films about drugs and drug addiction. Our mission is to revolutionize drug education by telling real-life stories that motivate young people to make one of the most important decisions of their life, and that's the decision to not use drugs. 2020 was the worst year for drug overdose deaths that we have ever seen. In the beginning of summer in 2020, I came across this article. A 14-year-old kid from a town I grew up in had died from what appeared to be a drug overdose. He's a smart, funny guy who, like many kids, was struggling with some anxiety issues and decided that he would turn to drugs to see if he could help himself with that. What happened was he went and bought this pill, this Oxycontin pill, from a guy he had known because he thought that pill might ease the pain of what he was going through mentally. Well, he didn't know it, but that Oxycontin pill wasn't a real Oxycontin pill. It was a fake pill. It looked just like the pill that he wanted to try, but instead of Oxycontin, it was made with fentanyl, a synthetic opioid known to be 50 to 100 times the strength of morphine. That one pill he took that night killed him almost instantly, and his mom found him dead in his bedroom the next morning. Before I can even finish that article, I'm scrolling through and I see another linked article. Not far away, around the same time, another 14-year-old dead from fentanyl. So then I go back to Google and I type in fentanyl deaths. I hit search, and then it all made sense. I saw another kid. And I saw high school students, college students, young adults, all recent, all over the country, all dead from fentanyl. And so I'm looking at that and I'm saying, these aren't just normal overdose deaths. These people think they're taking one drug and turns out they're being killed. Why have we not heard about this?
First time I heard about fentanyl was my sister busting in my house being like, don't touch anything in his room, it's fentanyl. And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, I have no idea what's going on right now. So most people haven't heard of this because we haven't been talking about it. Back in 2013, when it first started showing up, only about 3% of drug users were dying from it. Now we're looking at over 50% of drug deaths being attributed to fentanyl. If Alexander could have got a lesson, I wish he knew about fentanyl. I wish he understood that fentanyl poisoning is real and that every time you try something, you're playing with your life. It is pill roulette every time you try it. As a mom of a kid that was just trying to experiment, that's where it is. As a mom of a kid that died just wanting to experiment, I wish I could just shake you and tell you and make it real for you. But I don't know how to do that. I won't be there when you're faced with these decisions. I know that if he knew the effects of his passing, it would crush him. He never intended for me to find him on his bedroom floor. He never intended for his dad to administer CPR, trying to save his life while we were waiting for the paramedics. Even his 12-year-old sister wanted to run in there and try to help do CPR, but I held her back. Alex didn't intend for me to see him wheeled away on a stretcher and put into an ambulance.
Alex had no intentions of me seeing him lying on a stainless steel table covered with a sheet with only his head showing. Alex had no intentions of me knowing what it felt like to kiss his face for the last time. The images that I'm left with of that day replay in my mind on a regular basis. Please do not put your family through this. And please, 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 I beg of you, learn about fentanyl now. You can be a very important part of saving lives.
This would be how much cocaine somebody would have to ingest to kill them. This is the approximate number of prescription pills one would have to ingest to kill them. This is the amount of heroin the average person would have to ingest to kill them. Fentanyl. You're gonna have to bring that camera up here real close to see it. This much fentanyl would kill you and I if we split it.
4 years ago, DEA in Arizona seized 0 fentanyl. This last year, we seized enough fentanyl to kill 70 million people. You're playing Russian roulette out there when you're taking these pills and you're buying this stuff off the street.
Social media has completely changed the landscape of the drug trade. Most people start by searching for what they think are prescription medications, and drug dealers respond saying that's what they have. But what you have to be careful about is what you're asking for and what you get can be two different things. They're just looking to make a quick buck. They don't have your best interest in mind. They'll tell you whatever you want to hear. Unless you're getting these drugs from your doctor or a licensed pharmacy in a bottle that has your name on it, you may as well assume these drugs are fake. You're not getting the real thing. Fentanyl's literally taken over the drug market. It's in everything. It's in meth, it's in cocaine. Obviously, the counterfeit pills that are out there, we're starting to see it showing up now in marijuana. The people who make this stuff, who are putting the fentanyl and everything, they have one goal: to get you hooked. Fentanyl is highly, highly addictive. They're gonna trick you into thinking you're getting something you're not, to take you down that rabbit hole, to get you hooked on fentanyl and have you become an addict. Because to them, you're a customer, and you'll be a returning customer at that point. One of those times, you're gonna get enough fentanyl to kill you. Alex was in her bedroom at night, getting ready for bed. She went on social media in search of oxycodone. It wasn't hard for her to find a drug dealer, and she had what she thought was oxycodone delivered to our house. One pill had enough fentanyl to kill 5 people. My daughter took half of this pill and died instantly. In an instant, my life was changed forever. My last memory of my daughter is of her being wheeled out on a gurney. I saw my daughter brought into this world, and I saw her leave this world. I have 4 daughters and a beautiful wife. Every time we take a family picture, I don't see who's there, I see who's missing. It's an odd feeling to looking forward to dying, because you know that's when your heart will be made whole again. Alex would have never wanted this. Don't do it to your parents.
It's the end of the world at the palm of my hand. If you can't come with me, I'll understand.
You have a choice, because it is between life or death. This is no joke. You can and will die. How do I know this? I can tell you that I've met thousands upon thousands upon thousands of parents nationwide. I wish somebody had sat me down and had this talk with me about what fentanyl does to people. I didn't get that chance. You do.
You know, there's always been one main problem with the films that we make, and it's the reason why we try to keep them as real and as relatable as possible. People just so commonly think that it will not happen to them. I'm talking about great people, nice people, cool people, intelligent people with big plans for the future, big potential. Gone because of one choice they didn't know would end their life. Fentanyl is coming for anyone and everyone. So the most important message that I can give to kids, to teens, young adults, anybody, is the same old message we've heard time and time again. And that's to really get serious about not even trying a drug. You see, back when we first started, I was telling kids not to use drugs because you might get hooked, you might get addicted. Now there's not even time for that. Now it's don't try a drug because you might actually not wake up tomorrow. You might actually not get another chance. One choice is all it takes. If you don't believe that, I guarantee you, at this point, there was someone very similar to you who wished they could be here right now to look into the camera and look into your eyes and say, don't do it. Please don't do it. Please, I wish I wouldn't have done it. Don't do it. Don't risk your life. So my question for you is, are you going to listen? Or will it be your family and your friends holding your picture, wishing they could have been there to tell you?
This is my son, Alexander. He died at 14 years old from fentanyl poisoning.
This is our daughter, Jessica. She was 29 years old when she was killed by fentanyl.
This is my daughter, Alex. She was murdered at 20 years old by a drug dealer who sold her a counterfeit pill made of fentanyl.
This is my son, Daniel Joseph Puerta Johnson, killed at the age of 16 by illicit fentanyl.
This is my son.
The end of the world at the palm of my hand. And if you can't come with me, I'll understand. I'll understand.
All right, we can bring the lights back up. All right, that's a powerful movie. I've been doing enough of these. My name is Jack Swan. I'm here with Fentanyl Fathers. We've been doing enough of these to know that we're not the only people who have been impacted by this epidemic, and likely a lot of you or your families or your friends may have been impacted. So just be kind to one another today, and if you need to talk to someone, please go see in counseling services. After this presentation, just say, hey, I want to talk about the presentation, it really hit hard. This is my brother, Drew Swan. We were born 16 months apart, and he was my best friend on the planet. How many of you have a sibling that you consider a best friend? So or you can imagine what it means to lose someone like this. We grew up with the same friend groups. I was a freshman when he was a junior, and our friends were best buds all through college and onward. We were homeschooled for a couple of years, so we were a really tight-knit family unit from 5th and 6th grade, and we did everything together. I think what I remember best about him is just the way that he made people feel. I would see girls swoon over him, guys wanted to hang out with him all the time. He was the most popular kid in high school, and I always looked up to him and felt safe around him. In around 2010, he injured his collarbone. He broke his collarbone wrestling with a friend, and he got his first prescription for something called Percocet. It's a highly addictive opioid, but it's used for pain when taken under the advisement of a medical professional. He found that he liked it, and 2 years later we found out that he had a full-blown substance use disorder. We didn't know much about it at the time, but we got him help, got him into a treatment facility, and he was sober for about 1.5 years. He went down to Florida. He was working 3 jobs. In high school, he was a varsity athlete. He was a state champion swimmer. He was a model. He was voted best looking in his class. But, he ended up in recovery and on a recovery journey down in Florida. So one day he calls me and he says that he was struggling and he really needed to come up and see me. And I was in the middle of my graduate studies finals up in Michigan, and I said I could see him after finals. And he said, "Jack, that's too long." So I never got to see him. He ended up dying a day later. He was in his sober living home, and he found some medication that his roommate had in the medicine cabinet, and Drew took one of those pills that night, and he went over to his friend Rico's and started helping him find apartments online, and Rico noticed something was off about Drew. He was nodding his head. Rico thought clearly that he was on something, but dropped him off at a sober living home and asked him if he was okay, and Drew just gave him the thumbs up. Walked into his room that night and never woke up. One day later, his friends called me and said, "Jack, Drew's dead, and paramedics are here and they're wheeling him out on a gurney." And I said, "Are they doing CPR?" Because I had some medical training. I was CPR certified at the time, and I knew people could come back, but they said no. It appeared that he had blue lips and he was lifeless, and he had been that way for a while. So I went into a state of shock. I couldn't even cry at that time. I had to call both of my parents and tell them that they lost their firstborn son. This happened 10 years ago, and it still hits me every time that I say this, because it's something I just never want anybody else to experience. My main message, though, is Drew was experiencing signs of an overdose. His friends knew that he was an opioid user. That was his drug of choice. So through the presentation, you guys will learn what these signs of an overdose are. You're also going to learn about a life-saving medication called naloxone. And had that medication been in Drew's sober living home, he could be alive today. So hopefully some of the impacts, just highlighting overdose deaths in 2022 or 2023, overdose deaths were 107,543 deaths. That's a lot of people. And to compare by category of other deaths in 2022, drunk driving accidents, all people who died under the age of 30 from COVID, all childhood cancer deaths, all Americans lost in the Vietnam War, a 10-year war, and all global plane crashes since 2009 all add up to about 13,000 shy of just the number of people that we lost last year. Mostly from fentanyl, mostly young. These are some famous people who have died from fentanyl, from fake Percocets, fake Vicodin, fake Xanax, or it being laced into cocaine. Prince is on the DEA's wall of the faces of fentanyl. They highlight everybody who's been poisoned by fentanyl or died from fentanyl in DEA. And my brother's face is facing Prince's face. It just shows that, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're living under a bridge or if you're living on Wall Street. Fentanyl does not, it doesn't matter if you're sitting in a classroom or if you're, making movies. Fentanyl does not discriminate. And all of you are famous people, is the point that I like to drive home. You're famous to your families, and you will always be memorialized if you're taken too soon. So we want to avoid that and teach you something today. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to introduce you to Alexandra, who's going to go more into depth on fentanyl and some things to arm you guys with tools.
All right, so my name is Alexandra Hicks. I work with the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities. We're a nonprofit organization that does a lot of prevention work with wellness, mental health, and then I work with our overdose prevention, and that's what we're going to be talking through today. So what we're going to go through is how to recognize signs and symptoms of use, how to recognize signs and symptoms of an overdose. We're going to talk through what is fentanyl and why it's an issue, as well as how to respond if you ever encounter somebody experiencing an overdose. Now, how many of you guys in here have heard of Narcan before? All right, how many of you guys have heard of naloxone? All right, so naloxone is the medication name for Narcan. Narcan is the name brand, which is why we refer to it so much as that. But it is an opioid overdose reversal medication. So if anyone is having an overdose from an opiate, naloxone can reverse it and save their life. So that's why we do it. We want people to be empowered in our communities and know how to respond if somebody is experiencing an overdose that's life-threatening. Another reason that we do it is that there's a lot of stigma. And with stigma, it comes barriers to people getting the help that they need. And if people can be more open and honest on where they're at, what they're struggling with, the more that they can be connected to resources that can help them, that can improve their lives, and can save their lives. So a little bit of background information. In the 12-month period ending in January 2021, we had right around 100,000 Americans pass away from overdoses and accidental poisonings. Now, the next year, that number increased, and we had right around 107,000 Americans pass away from overdoses and accidental poisonings. So this is something that has been steadily increasing over the last decade, but again, the more that we can be prepared and empowered to respond, the more that we can work together to lower it. Now, 75% of these involved at least one opioid. Next slide. Now, this is our picture of a potentially lethal dose of fentanyl. It is incredibly potent in very small amounts. That's on the tip of a pencil, but if you can imagine the size of a pill, quite a bit of that substance can fit just in one pill. Now, our number of adolescents overdoses and accidental poisonings increased between 2019 and 2021 by 77%. That's a lot, y'all. That is a lot of people who are passing away because of this substance that is out there and because of choices that they don't have the full awareness of what they're engaging with. Now, our opioid overdoses increased as well as every category of substance. So we had our overall number increase, right? But we've also seen an increase from overdoses from opiates, from synthetic opioids, and then from stimulants as well. Now, a big reason for that is counterfeit pills. Currently, from our drug supply from the street that's been seized and tested, 7 out of 10 contain a potentially lethal dose of fentanyl. What percentage is that? 70. Is that a high percentage or a low? That's a high percentage. That is a high risk that people are taking anytime that they are engaging with something like this. Now, counterfeit pills are mass produced by criminal drug networks. They are easy to purchase, widely available. They often contain fentanyl or methamphetamine, and they're even being sold on social media and e-commerce platforms. Now, when they are being sold, do you think that they are being advertised as counterfeit fake pills? Do you? No. Why would anybody advertise that? Would you purchase a counterfeit fake pill? No, nobody's going to, right? Now, what they are doing is they are advertising these as legitimate substances, all right? Substances that people are prescribed legitimately, but they are making them look like that to try and trick and dupe people. So I have some examples on the screen. I have on the left column authentic, legitimate, prescribed medications that are regulated, that are only purchased from a pharmacy. And then on the right, I have their counterfeit counterpart. Now, our top example is oxycodone, all right? The left one is the authentic. The one on the right is the counterfeit. Now, the first time that I saw these, I thought the counterfeit one was the legitimate one because it's neater and cleaner. And in my logical brain, I'm like, oh, that's probably the right one. Absolutely not. That one's the counterfeit one. Now, our next example there we have is the Xanax. And there is a bit of a difference here. There's a difference in color, there's a difference in shape, there's a difference in markings, but those are still things that can be explained away when questioned. Of, oh, well, you know, this was the off-brand version, or the manufacturer changed, that's why it looks different. So it's one of those things where if it is not being prescribed to us, and we are not buying it from a pharmacy, we cannot take the risk of engaging with it because the risk is too high. Now, the last one blows my mind. These are 20 milligram Adderall and a 30 milligram counterfeit Adderall. I'm ADHD. I've taken ADHD meds my whole life, and there's no way I'd be able to tell the difference between these two. They look way too similar. Now, fentanyl, why it's being put in is because it is so potent. It is 50 to 100 times more potent than any other substance out there, which is why it's becoming so prevalent. It's being put in pills that are being made to try and look legitimate, but it's not only being put into pills, it's also being put into our powdered substances like cocaine or heroin, methamphetamines. Now, a few of these things, like Adderall or cocaine, those are stimulants. Fentanyl is being put into every type of substance, every kind of classification. There is not one that is safe from it being tainted. Now, what is an overdose? So what is happening in the body when somebody is experiencing an overdose? So we have these receptors in our brains that send and receive signals to our body. Now, when somebody takes a lot of an opiate, these receptors in our brains get flooded with the opiate, and it ends up blocking the signal for breath, causing respiratory depression. That is what's going on in someone's system when they're experiencing an overdose. The lungs are not being told to breathe, and then everything else stops working as a result. Now, we have an amazing reversal medication called naloxone that is effective on any opiate, anytime. There are no exceptions to that. And how it works is it actually has a stronger attachment for those receptors in our brains. So when it's given to somebody that has opiates in their system, it will, next slide, knock the opiate off of the receptor, and then the naloxone will attach to the receptor, creating a protective barrier that allows the person to breathe again and allows those signals to resume. Now, that's its only function. Why we need to know this is because on the screen you'll see it only lasts in the body 30 to 90 minutes. So we want to make sure that we are encouraging that person to accept medical help so that they can be under observation in case they are at risk for a re-overdose. Now, naloxone works on any opiate any time. It will reverse the opiate's effects, sedation, and respiratory depression. It can cause a sudden withdrawal. It does not have any psychoactive effects. It's not addictive. It is routinely used by EMS, And then this last bit is my favorite. There will be no effect on the person if they don't have an opiate in their system. What this means is that we can have confidence that we will not cause harm if we ever have to administer Narcan or naloxone. If there's not an opiate in their system, it will not have any effect at all. And if there is an opiate, then it's going to potentially save that person's life. Now, signs and symptoms of opioid use. So we want to be on the lookout for these so we can be able to recognize the signs of an overdose, but we also want to be able to recognize these so we can start having those open, honest, supportive conversations with the people in our lives and in our community. A couple of these are going to be nodding out, falling asleep, pinpoint pupils, may see paraphernalia laying around, may notice changes in behavior. Now, a few of these can be explained away, right? So the one that we're really going to focus on is the pinpoint pupils. So normal pupils react to light. If I go outside in bright light, my pupils get really small. If I'm in a dark lit room, they're going to get quite a bit bigger. If somebody is on a stimulant, their pupils will become dilated, and they will stay pretty dilated no matter the light exposure. Now, does Narcan work on stimulants? No, it doesn't. But what do we know about our drug supply? That what % contains opiates like fentanyl? 70%. All right? So we are always going to use Narcan or naloxone all the time if we the least suspect an overdose, just in case it's from an opiate. Now, if somebody is on opiates, their pupils are going to become pinpoint, and they are going to stay pretty pinpoint no matter the light exposure. So that's something we can be on the lookout for. Once we recognize pinpoint pupils, nodding out, having trouble staying awake, we're going to be on the lookout for overdose symptoms. And those are going to be shallow breathing, difficulty breathing. They might have gurgling or snoring noises. Eventually, they will stop breathing. They'll go limp. They'll start turning pale or blue, and that's when we'll take action. Now, our first step in any medical emergency is going to be to do what? You guys are so enthusiastic. Yes, we're going to call 911. All right, couple reasons for that. How long does Narcan last in the body? So much better. Thank you. 30 to 90 minutes. All right. So we want to make sure that they have that point of contact with medical professionals as soon as possible. Another reason that we're going to call 911 is because on average, it takes 2 to 4 doses to revive somebody. In each box of Narcan that you can get at your local pharmacy or from nonprofit organizations like ours, each box of Narcan contains 2 doses. If more is needed, we want to make sure first responders are on the way so that they can continue administering Narcan. Another reason that we want to call 911 is because of the Good Samaritan law. The Good Samaritan law states that if I am in the process of trying to save somebody's life and I cause harm, I will not be held liable. That means if I try and do CPR, I accidentally break their rib, they can't sue me for that, and I can't get in trouble for it. The Good Samaritan law also states that if I am using an illegal substance with other people, I'm using illegal drugs with other people, and somebody that I'm with starts to have an overdose, and I am doing everything in my power to save their life, I'm calling 911, I'm trying to get to Narcan. When first responders and police show up, I will not be prosecuted for that illegal substance in my system, on my person, in the area. The reason they put this law into place is because we were having way too many overdose deaths happen because people would get scared and leave the person. So this protects us so that we can remove that barrier to saving people's lives. So what's the first thing that we're going to do always? Call 911. Next thing we're going to do is assess the situation. We're going to see if they're conscious. Once we know that they aren't conscious, we're going to go ahead and get out our first dose of nasal naloxone. It comes in a blister pack like this. There is no cap. There is nothing to prime. It is ready as soon as you open it. You're going to take it out. You're going to insert it into their nostril all the way to your fingertips, and then you're going to press the plunger once it's inserted, the plunger in the middle. Once you do that, we have to wait around 2 minutes to see if it takes an effect. During that time, if you know CPR or can give breath, that's what we're going to do during those 2 minutes. After the 2 minutes, if they still are not breathing on their own or conscious, we're going to go ahead and get out that second dose of nasal naloxone, and we're going to insert it into the opposite nostril, just in case there was a blockage or a deviated septum, and do the same thing. Insert to our fingertips, press the plunger. That's it. How many of you guys know how to use a nasal spray, like a saline spray? Same kind of thing. You've already got the awareness and the information on how to use it, so you guys can do this. Once they do start coming to, we're going to place them on their side in the recovery position, just in case there's any bodily functions, and then we're going to give that person space, because they're coming back from unconsciousness, and they're not going to know what the heck is going on. Now, something that we do as an organization, and there are other organizations doing this, is we provide Narcan, naloxone, as well as supplies to our communities. You can find them on our website. It contains Narcan testing strips, so people can test their substances prior to ingestion to see if it contains fentanyl, as well as med disposal and then community resources. And yeah, we have more resources on our website, and I think that's all I got for you. Brilliant. Thank you guys so much.
All right. I just am going to put in a little blurb for one of the partnering organizations that it's actually run by students called SAFE. It's Students Advocating Fentanyl Education. They were an organization that started down at Beach High School in Florida, and we have a couple of chapters here in Michigan, the closest one being in Rochester Adams High School. They just did a trunk or treat, giving out information similar to what's being presented here today. So we encourage you to reach out to them on Instagram at Fentanyl Safe if you're interested in setting up an organization like this at your high school. Oh, I forget this thing.
Reason for joining SAFE may be sitting next to you right now. So if you're interested in helping us spread awareness, please DM us on Instagram or scan this QR code so that we can keep our generation safe.
Okay. This is my son, Brian. We're kind of running a little long, so I'm going to skip his story. But I do want to make reference to him in one regard. So I've done a lot of these presentations. I pay close attention to the students, watch their reactions, try to gauge what they're thinking. But I know that there are many of you out there right now who are thinking, this is never going to happen to me. I'm way too smart for this. This only happens to other people. Well, that's your first mistake. So let me tell you a story about my son. He lost a friend to fentanyl poisoning, and they had a memorial for him, and my son was very broken up, very upset. He went to the memorial, and he came back that night, and the next day, my wife and I talked with him, and she said to him, she said, Brian, don't make this your story. And Brian looked at us and said, oh, don't worry, I'm way too smart for this. This is never going to happen to me. And then he said, don't worry, Mom, I'm Superman. So my son was Superman, and he died 10 days later. So you're not invincible. Everybody in this room is one bad decision away from losing their life and putting their parents and their friends and their family through excruciating pain. You have no idea. You have no idea the pain and the guilt and the regret that I live with. I dread the holidays. We don't celebrate birthdays. My last image of my son was lying on his bedroom floor. So I beg you to take what we gave you today, carry this with you well beyond high school. Most importantly, I want one of you to be a hero. I want many of you to be a hero. I want you to be that person who stops a friend from taking a pill at a party that was not prescribed to them. That is your opportunity to be a hero. Thank you.
All right, guys, we are just about wrapping up this presentation, and then we'll take question and answer and ask you guys to finish out the survey at the end. I love a Go Bulldogs chant because I went to Ferris State, my alma mater. So can I get a Go Bulldogs? Go Bulldogs. There you go. Okay. So same kind of thing. We like to end our presentations by just having you guys say a little something that goes back to an ancient proverb that says if you admit with your lips and believe in your heart, then you will be saved. So I'm going to read this out and do the same thing you guys are going to follow. I'll never try, so I'll never die from fentanyl. Thank you guys. You guys have been great. And now we'll take, if you guys have any questions, just raise your hand and we can take questions at this time. If we can bring the lights up a little bit, maybe? Yeah, there we go. Any questions? Yes. It's absorbed through the nasal mucous membrane when it's administered. So you have these little arteries and veins in your nose, and it's absorbed. The medication's absorbed and then circulated into the body. And then that will create that protective barrier that Alexandra was talking about and restore breathing for the person. Great question. Other questions? No other questions? Okay, well, a reminder, fill out the survey. Great reminder. So it's attached to the same survey that you guys completed in the beginning of the presentation. We use that data to help get us into other areas. And, yeah. So let me see. You're saying from the beginning one? It's linked, so once you completed the first survey, there should have been like a stop function. Do you guys see that on the Google Forms? And then it'll take you to the post survey. You just click next on the survey that you started in the beginning. But you can rescan here if you need to. All right, you guys have been great. I'm going to turn it over to your principal. Thank you so much for having us in.